I think the future of Bitcoin is very bright. I do think Bitcoin will go to new all-time highs. I think the next top in Bitcoin will be somewhere around $50,000 a Bitcoin.
Don, thank you. Thanks a lot for being here with us, and thank you for your time. So, how is Mexico treating you so far?
Oh, it's great. I'm really enjoying it. I like the weather. People are very nice, and those that watch my YouTube channel know that I'm a tequila fan. And every time I go to Asia, it's always a problem.
Okay.
But here in Mexico, it's never a problem.
That's right. So you were here because of the Talent Land, right?
Correct.
So how was it?
Yeah, Talent Land is a huge event. I heard it was big, but until you see it, it's really something special. It was in Guadalajara, Mexico. It's one of the biggest events in the world. And I had a great time. I'm so grateful they gave me the main stage, and I tried to explain Bitcoin, try to explain the value proposition of Bitcoin, and hopefully more people will understand it and learn it the right way.
Awesome. And did you see any interesting project there?
There were not that many projects there. Blockchain Land is new to Talent Land. It was the first year of Blockchain Land, and it was Bitso and one other company, and with the booths. There was an ATM company, and other companies were represented, but they didn't really have booths. So it was mostly companies that I knew that were there. But next year, I think it's gonna have a lot. Bitcoin and blockchain will have, or to me, they're one and the same. But I think Bitcoin will have a much bigger presence next year at Talent Land, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Right, sure. So, to all the people that have listened about Bitcoin but are not decided to participate in, what would an experienced trader like you could tell them? What did you see in Bitcoin to get in?
So to me, I heard about Bitcoin back in 2011, early 2011, but it didn't trigger to get me in. For me, the trigger to get me in was the money confiscation in Cyprus in 2013, when the European Union shut down the Cyprus banks, and if you had more than 100,000 euros in the bank, 50% of that money was confiscated. And that showed me how your money is not safe in a bank, even in a developed nation. And that led me to Bitcoin, and that's how the word unconfiscatable came about. I now own unconfiscatable.com, and I run the Unconfiscatable conference because that is the #1 property of Bitcoin to me. And when I realized that Bitcoin is the only asset that humans have ever owned that is unconfiscatable if you properly secure it, which is difficult, I will admit, that's the property that triggered me to buy into Bitcoin. And I think as people realize the value of this property, they will be interested as well.
Right. So we heard a lot of things going crazy in the 2017 market. I usually think that and say to people that a token or a stock going really high in price doesn't mean necessarily to has value. So how could you say to people they could identify the difference where it's just a price crazy thing going and a real source of value?
Yeah, it's not easy. To me, I was ready for the Bitcoin bull market, and I felt that $7,500 in November should have been the peak, a reasonable peak in price, and then we would fall in price a little bit. Price ended up going very irrational to 20,000. In hindsight, everyone should have sold, including myself, but I believe in Bitcoin long term. So I held on to my Bitcoin. I still think it's going to go higher than 20,000 because it's too valuable and there's not that many Bitcoins around the world. But this dynamic between the value and the utility can swing in both directions. I always try to remember the internet and what happened. So the value of the stocks on top of the internet hit an all-time high in March of 2000. It did not surpass that high until March of 2015. It took 15 years. But during that time, the technology of the internet was only getting stronger every year. The good companies on the internet were only getting better every year. Amazon's, Google's, they were only getting better. Netflix came out, Facebook. So just because the value can overshoot and undershoot, as long as you are aware what the underlying technology is doing, your investment is sound. And I couldn't be happier with the underlying Bitcoin technology. So no matter how low Bitcoin goes, I will remain confident that we will go to new all-time highs.
Okay.
And the next time we go, hopefully it will be like the technology stocks, and it will just keep going and only become more stable.
Okay. Personally, the time that I first heard about Bitcoin, I was told that it was going to replace the US dollar. The US dollar was going to collapse. The Bitcoin will be the main currency, the main and only currency in the world. Do you think that is achievable, something reasonable to expect?
I think it's possible, but I don't think it's something to assume will happen. I don't think the US dollar is going anywhere. In fact, the US dollar is starting to significantly strengthen. As much as people hate the US dollar, it is by far the most stable and most responsible currency in the world. It's starting to appreciate against the euro once again. Japan is not doing too well. Australian dollar is not doing too well. And I don't think Bitcoin is going to replace the dollar anytime soon. In addition, technologically, Bitcoin is nowhere close to supporting a global use of that caliber. Bitcoin probably needs at least 10 more years of not only technological advancements and stability, but also people's confidence in Bitcoin that it's not gonna collapse under its own weight. So I don't want this to happen anytime soon, and I'm not expecting it at all. Maybe in 20, 30 years, if Bitcoin remains stable and we have people that are now 30, 40 years old and they grew up on Bitcoin, then they will learn to trust it the way we all trust the internet today.
Right, because it's something about trust, right?
The only thing that matters to a currency really is the confidence of the people. Everyone always says the dollar is going to collapse because of how much dollars the US government is printing. But it doesn't matter. As long as the people around the world have confidence in the US dollar, it doesn't matter how much is printed. It'll just be absorbed and saved. So the only thing that matters to a currency is confidence. When confidence is lost in your government, that's when your currency goes into hyperinflation. The Venezuelan bolivar did not go into hyperinflation because they printed too many bolivars. It went into hyperinflation because nobody trusted the government and no one wants to hold that currency. So everyone wants to get rid of it. And no one trusts it and no one values it, so now the government prints more of it because they have their bills to pay and they have the ability to print. But it's the loss of confidence of the people in your currency that kills the value of your currency. And people around the world only want US dollars. So the world losing confidence in US dollar, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Right. And do you think that it's possible, like this theory is spreading, that some countries are realizing that if you have a very big debt to the United States, and somehow you manage to get organized to make the dollar go down, like, I don't know, acquiring an amount of golds like Russia and China, do you think that's something possible to do?
I don't think so. I don't think so. A lot of debts, if your country owes a big debt, you just pay it off slowly. And the US government doesn't even expect to get paid from all these countries. The US government can't pay its own debt.
Right.
So it knows that weaker countries are not going to pay their debt. They just use it as leverage to force American companies into those countries, and then the American companies profit. That profit does somewhat come back to America, and then America continues to stay the world superpower. So I don't think China and Russia will be able to organize, will be able to create a gold-backed currency, because the thing is, the people of Russia trust the US dollar more than the Russian ruble. People in China, many of them trust the US dollar more than their local currency. So, and it's not that they don't trust the currency, it's because they trust the US government printing the US dollars more responsibly than their own government printing their money. So why in the world would they suddenly trust their own government because they say they now have a gold-backed currency? It's like the Venezuelan people suddenly trusting the Venezuelan government with money just because they said that they have a cryptocurrency backed by oil reserves. It's ridiculous. The reason why the Russian ruble is depreciating against the dollar is because the people of Russia trust the US dollar more than their own currency. Is because the world trusts the US dollar more than the Russian ruble. So even if Russia announces that they have now backed their currency by gold, the people of the world have to trust the Russian government to actually do what they say. And that's not easy.
Right. Right. It's even said that the Putin has his own money reserve in dollar, right?
I'm sure he does.
Yes, in the United States. So it's basically everything focused to trust and confidence. That
confidence. Everything is confidence. The entire financial system is confidence. And if that confidence is lost, your country's in trouble. The Zimbabwe currency, Zimbabwe dollar, went into hyperinflation, about 10 years ago in 2007, 2006, 2007, and that was because the government started taking away land and redistributing the land. So when your government doesn't allow property rights, the rich people of that country lost faith in their government that they would let them keep their wealth and their property. And when the entrepreneurs and the rich people of your country lose faith in your currency and in your government, your currency will go into hyperinflation because they will leave the country. The entrepreneurs, the job creators, they left, and there was nothing left. So it's always about the confidence.
Right. So a lot of people in 2018 got wrecked. All the new guys. And I've seen this researching, the tulip mania, the 29, the dot-com bubble, the ICOs bubbles, and people get crazy because I don't know, they get blinded about the gains. How would you, what advice would you give them to not act that irreasonably?
Just invest where you can afford to lose. And that's the only advice, because bubbles were here before we were born, and bubbles will come long after we die. And this is one of the things that people say when people like myself and Tyler Jenks, that does another financial guru that does very good videos and is on my channel often. We were calling for this bear market to be disastrous, and he's still more bearish than I am that we're going lower. And one of the things that, and he's been trading in the market since the 70s. He's been trading for over 40 years. And he continues to say Bitcoin is no different than anything else I have seen in my 45-year career as a trader, as a financial analyst. And people that are between ages of 15 and like 30 in the crypto space keep telling us that Bitcoin is different. Bitcoin might be different, but the people trading Bitcoin are not different. It's the same people with the same brain that were trading in the Tulip Mania back in the 1400s in Amsterdam. So the brain, the animal mentality, the irrational exuberance, that doesn't change. So because that doesn't change, you could come up with metrics that help you identify these bubbles, and it's not easy to get out. Myself, I'm holding through it because I do think Bitcoin is different. But I'm holding through it in a way that if Bitcoin does go to 1,000, I will be just fine because I have prepared for that scenario. So the people that got wrecked are the people that were not prepared for the big drop in prices. If you're prepared, you'll be fine.
You had a plan, right? There's now a lot of YouTubers that are doing like micro analysis on 5-minute charts, and and when you focusing, I say to the people, when you're focusing in that little time frame, you lose big picture.
That is true, but if you are focusing on that little time frame, you don't care about the big picture. When I've traded on all kinds of time frames, I've traded all kinds of assets. When I decided to trade the futures markets, gold, oil, silver, and S&P, the stock market, I was trading on 10-minute charts. I was trading every day. And I didn't know if the market was going up or going down. My goal was to make money that day. And it didn't matter to me if the market was an up day or a down day. So if you are trading that time frame, you really don't need to care about the big picture. Your goal is to make X amount of money that day and not to lose money. And you accumulate that money. And it doesn't matter if you're accumulating that money in the form of Bitcoin, or in the form of dollars, or in the form of gold, or in any form, or in the form of stocks. The goal is not to lose money and to make money. As long as you're saving that money, not in, let's say, Venezuelan bolivars that will go down in value, or maybe Ethereum, which I think will go down in value, right? As long as you're saving your winnings in something that can potentially go up or something that will be stable, you're okay. Because your job, by looking at the 5-minute or 10-minute charts, is to just make money that day. It's a job. It's not an investment, it's a job. Right. So you should not pay attention to the big picture. Your goal is just what happens while you're looking at the market.
It's like different approach, right?
Yes.
So that would be like the difference between trading and investing?
Correct.
Right, to grow your assets.
Yes. There is I break down trading into 4 categories. The highest level is the investor, and the investor is looking to hold a position for several years up to a decade. I consider myself an investor in Bitcoin. If you're a hodler, you're an investor in Bitcoin. Then you have a position trader. That's your retirement portfolio. You look to an active retirement portfolio. You look to enter a position, you hold it for a few months, up to a year or two. Then you have the swing trader. I used to be a swing trader. I still am mostly. You enter a position for a few weeks up to a few months. Then you have the day trader. That's your 5-minute, 10-minute candles. You don't go to sleep with the position. And then you have your scalper. That's the 1-minute to 5-minute candles, and that's the guy that shouldn't be going to the bathroom with the position on. You literally want to watch the market with your hand on the keyboard.
So, what would you think the main or the most important reason to Bitcoin to succeed? Financial money getting in, or massive adoption, or both?
I think both. I think both happen together. I think the financial investment and the value of Bitcoin going up makes people be interested in Bitcoin, and that forces them to get educated about Bitcoin. And once they start using Bitcoin, then they realize how useful it is. It's like when someone introduced you to the internet, and you started using the internet and email and messaging, you're not going back. You see how valuable it is. Same thing with Bitcoin. And if the price rising is what gets people interested in Bitcoin, and then they learn how to properly use it, that's great. Or they realize how Bitcoin can help them in their business or their life, and then they start using Bitcoin. That helps raise the price, and that more people become aware of Bitcoin. So they complement each other, and as usage goes up, the value of Bitcoin goes up, and as value of Bitcoin goes up, the usage of Bitcoin goes up. That's the one difference between Bitcoin and the internet. You couldn't invest in the internet itself. You could only invest in companies on the internet. With Bitcoin, you can also invest in Bitcoin along with investing in adding value to using Bitcoin for yourself and for the whole community.
Okay, perfect. And to end with this interview, how would you like to see Bitcoin in price, in terms of use, from here to, I don't know, 5 or 10 years?
I want to see the proper use of Bitcoin. That's what makes me happy. A business like we're sitting here at the Bitcoin Embassy Bar, and it's great because I know the owners and the creators of the bar believe in Bitcoin. So when you pay for coffee or drinks or food, can't wait to try the ribeye here, in Bitcoin, I know that the owners will try to hold on to as much Bitcoin as they can because they believe in Bitcoin. So I am more than happy to spend my Bitcoin here at the Bitcoin Embassy in Mexico City. On the other hand, when I walk into a business that accepts Bitcoin and I talk to the business and they say, well, we don't keep the Bitcoin, we just use it, we allow people like you to pay for it in Bitcoin, but we immediately convert it to our local currency that goes into our bank. Now, I understand why businesses do that. They do it because, one, they may not understand Bitcoin, and two, they may not have the ability. Most businesses have very low margin, so they may not have the capacity to hold on to the Bitcoin instead of liquidating it and paying their employees. Business may not even be profitable, so they can't afford to save money. I understand that, but that business will get my local fiat currency. They're not going to get my Bitcoin because I have no reason to sell that Bitcoin on the open market. So for me, the importance is Bitcoin adoption, but in a way that helps Bitcoin grow, not to help liquidate it and sell it. So that's what I want to see. I want to see businesses that are believers in Bitcoin beyond the fact to let others with Bitcoin spend their money. So that's my goal, to get more people to accept Bitcoin and actually believe that it's something they should hold on to for dear life. And that's what HODL now stands for.
Right. I agree with you. And when that happens, which price of Bitcoin do you think it will be?
I think the future of Bitcoin is very bright. It's hard for me to say if the Bitcoin has already bottomed or we're still looking to bottom. But I do think Bitcoin will go to new all-time highs. I think the next top in Bitcoin will be somewhere around $50,000 a Bitcoin. Will that be in 2021, 2022, 2023? No one knows. Probably closer to 2023 than 2021, but that's okay. I'm already getting older, but because of Bitcoin, it's more important than ever to get healthy and live as long as possible. It's always been important, but I think it's even more important now. So I'm getting old, but I feel great, and I'm gonna continue to try and stay healthy so I can see not just the next high in Bitcoin, but more highs to come after every day.
Perfect. Well, Tom, it's amazing the meet and greet, and now I always continue learning from you. Personally, I can say that I like a lot your videos because you are one of the fewest people that stay cool, that doesn't get crazy, and you are like very objective, and your analysis capabilities are awesome to me. So thanks a lot for your time. We'll be seeing you here in Mexico. I hope you enjoy your stay and have a happy trip to Cancun.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
It's been great.